Joining me here on the program now from Ireland is Mr. Jim Larkin. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Hello, Jim Larkin, to you as well.
A very common name, I would say, Jim, huh?
Well, basically, I'm the fourth in our line, starting from South Armagh in Lower Killeavy, when my great-great-grandfather was born.
I see.
And his wife came from Burren in County Down.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a whirlwind courtship that met on the boat to Liverpool and decided after about 4 days to get married.
Uh-huh.
Now, she went back to County Down, but he had to stay in Liverpool. Like all the Larkin families, they were poor.
Yep, they certainly were.
And his father was a tenant farmer.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't meet again for 7 years.
Oh.
And got married then in Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting, and I saw, and there's a copy in my book, of a small photograph of my great-great-grandmother.
Uh-huh.
And that was taken in 1863 in Newry to send to Jim as a keepsake.
Oh, I see.
And I saw it first in my grandfather's wallet. He carried it all his life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she died in 1907 in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And Jim managed to get a public grave for 30 shillings.
Yeah.
Would you believe?
30
but
shillings.
He hadn't got the money for a headstone.
Mm-hmm.
And please God, I'll be having a headstone erected for herself and her late husband, who died in 1888. Because I consider those two people were actually the birth of our sect of the family.
Oh, yeah.
And I was wondering whether your own family were from another sept of the Larkins, whether you came from Galway initially, or Tipperary, or Wexford.
Uh-huh.
Those are three of the formation areas of the Larkins.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And if you'd like me to try to find out if there's any connection, I'd be delighted to have you and your family as real cousins.
Well, thank you, Jim, and us the same, you know?
Yeah.
We certainly would.
Yeah. Now, I had the pleasure, along with my late uncle, my late father, and my late grandfather, in visiting the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And three of us were treated with excess of kindness everywhere we went.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather, however, got shelter for no money at all in the Tombs prison, in Comstock prison, and in Sing Sing.
Sing Sing, yeah.
And he nonetheless went back to the States as well.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he was jailed for saying things that the powers that be did not like.
Oh, yeah.
But the treatment that he received from many of the trade unionists in Chicago and New York and Boston was marvelous.
Oh, yeah.
Marvelous.
Now, your grandfather, Jim Larkin, it was the Irish Trade Workers Union. Is that the name of what he started back in the early 1900s?
In 1909, he formed the Irish Transport and General Workers Union.
That's it, yeah.
And he would have been delighted that in 1990 that the Transport Union and the Workers Union of Ireland, which he also formed in 1923, were united, because he was a great believer in workers working together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I understand from your book, at some point he interceded between the Catholics and the Protestants in Belfast.
In 1907, in Belfast, in August, he managed for a month to persuade Catholics and Protestants to work together for a common end.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, so far, no one else has been able to do that.
Yes.
Please God, it will happen soon.
Yeah, I know. Boy.
Though he did something else. He went into the major police barracks and persuaded them that because they were having to work a lot of hours because of the dispute, they should stop work, and they actually did mutiny for a period.
Uh-huh.
And
Boy.
There was a Constable Barrett was involved in that very much. He had the privilege of giving a speech at the grave of Joe Hill.
Oh.
And visited almost every state in the United States.
Oh, boy.
And, shall we say, created some disturbance. He actually escaped being lynched in Butte. His colleague in the IWW was not so, shall we say, lucky.
Yeah.
And the strange thing was, the mayor at the time in Butte was named Daniel O'Connell.
Really?
Yes.
Boy.
That was about 1918.
1918, huh?
Yeah. Now, anything else you'd like to know?
Now, what about the rest of the Larkin family? Your father was Lord Mayor of Dublin, and was he active in the Union as well?
He was third General Secretary of the Union. My Uncle Jim was second General Secretary.
Uh-huh.
And between them, they also served a total of almost 60 years on Dublin Corporation.
Uh-huh.
So when it came to the twinning of Dublin and Liverpool, I was actually asked to go along.
Oh.
And it was a delight to see two cities that are so closely joined together could actually merge. My hope is that the two of us can join together with the city of Belfast as also a twin city.
That would be nice, Jim.
Yeah.
It certainly would.
Yeah.
Now, Jim, you've written a book called In the Footsteps of Big Jim, which you were nice enough to send me, and I have to tell you, this is a great book. It's just full of information about Jim Larkin and yourself and your father and the whole Larkin family, and a lot of Irish history in here, Jim.
A little bit, but I've always taken the view that history is about people.
Yeah.
And people can be very sad, can have hard times, can also have amusing times.
Yeah.
And history should be a joy to read.
Yeah.
And I took the view that when I took pieces from different prominent people, that I tried to get photographs of them, because that would give a little of their spirit and what they were about.
That's
as well.
right. Yes, yeah.
And also saving me to write a lot as well.
Well, you did a great job with the photographs in this book, too.
Yeah.
I was surprised at a few of them. One of them back in the early 1800s.
Yeah.
That was a surprise.
1840. That was my great-grandmother's father and mother.
Uh-huh.
And she was next in 1863.
Mm-hmm.
There was no photograph of Jim Larkin IV from Lower Killeavy.
Okay.
We hadn't got the money.
Yeah.
But I am delighted that you've called.
Mm-hmm.
And may I wish you and your family and all your listeners peace and prosperity and health.
Well, thank you very much, Jim, and the same to you. And tell me one more thing. If somebody was interested in getting a hold of this book, where would it be available? Do you know?
Kenny's Bookshop in Galway
Okay.
are the best suppliers there, and what they do is they send out a selection of books of Irish interest.
Uh-huh.
In fact, all over the world, places like Japan and China and anywhere else. And they're very good.
Yeah.
And they would be the best people to contact.
Okay.
What I'll do is I'll send their email address.
Okay, great.
Is there something I could just mention as well?
Sure, absolutely.
As the first transatlantic interview I've had with anyone,
Uh-huh.
if it were possible that you could send a copy of the tape to me, I'd be more than delighted.
Oh, I certainly will, Jim. I definitely will.
Yes, and I was delighted at your call. May I wish for the members of the United States, trade union members, solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
Because unless the trade union movement worldwide work together, the progress that was made by grandfather Keir Hardy and all the other great trade unionists, Joe Hill, Big Bill Haywood, and all the others, what they worked for almost 100 years will be wiped out.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the end of the political speech. But I hope that you'll feel free to let any of your listeners know or pass it on to other radio stations what I've said, and you can let them have my name and address, and I'd be delighted to hear from you.
Okay, Jim, that sounds good.
Right?
Well, I appreciate you taking the time for joining us on the radio today.
Well, it's been great.
As for me too, Jim. I'm going to send you a copy of the tape also. I'm going to run it probably a week from tomorrow, and I'll send a copy with the letter from Peter and a little piece about my grandfather when he passed away, and that makes mention to your grandfather as well in this piece.
Oh, that is marvelous. Thank you very much for ringing, Jim.
Okay, Jim, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you again soon, I hope.
Yes, please God. Bye.
Bye-bye, Jim.